Welcome to our deep dive, into the life of Napoleon Bonaparte,
Oh, yeah.
a figure who, even centuries after his death, continues to ignite debate.
Absolutely.
Today, we'll be drawing from a lecture by the historian Alessandro Barbero,
Okay.
as well as perspectives from Alessandro Manzoni, the Italian novelist,
Interesting.
and fascinatingly, Lucien Bonaparte, Napoleon's own brother.
Wow. That's
What makes Napoleon so captivating is this inherent paradox he embodies.
yeah. I think that's a great place to start. He constructed this vast militaristic empire,
Right.
yet he simultaneously propagated the ideals of revolution and liberty.
Yeah.
And this duality continues to divide opinions, with some revering him as a hero and others condemning him as a despot.
Yeah, it definitely makes you wonder how one man could embody such contradictions.
Ah.
So to unravel this enigma, let's start at the beginning.
Okay,
Napoleon wasn't born in mainland France, as many might assume.
that's right. He was born in 1769 on the island of Corsica, which at that time was Italian-speaking, and had only recently become a French possession.
Wow.
His family, although considered nobility, wasn't particularly wealthy.
I see.
So recognizing the strategic advantage of aligning with the French, Napoleon's father secured educational opportunities for his sons,
Makes sense.
leading young Napoleon to the Brienne military school in France.
And it's there we start to see these glimpses of his strategic thinking, even as a young cadet.
Absolutely.
Barbera recounts a story, though perhaps embellished,
For sure.
of a snowball fight where Napoleon demonstrated early leadership,
Interesting.
organizing his fellow cadets and exploiting a weakness in the opposing side to secure victory. True or not, it foreshadows this image of Napoleon as a masterful strategist.
Absolutely. This early display of tactical acumen hints at the military genius that would later define his career.
Yeah.
From Brienne, Napoleon progressed to become an artillery officer, stepping onto the world stage just as the French Revolution erupted.
Wow.
A pivotal event that dramatically shaped his destiny.
It must have been such a turbulent time, especially considering that Napoleon's brother Lucien wholeheartedly embraced the revolution, while Napoleon initially remained skeptical.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
The revolution wasn't merely an abstract political ideology for Napoleon. It deeply impacted his personal life.
Right.
His family was forced to flee Corsica due to the political turmoil instigated by Pasquale Paoli,
Oh, wow.
a Corsican independence leader whom Napoleon had initially admired.
Really?
So imagine the internal conflict of having your ideals challenged by the realities of your own experience.
Right, this personal connection to the revolution adds another layer of complexity to understanding Napoleon's actions.
Yeah.
So how did he transition from Corsican refugee to a military leader? Was there a particular moment that set him on this trajectory?
The Siege of Toulon in 1793 proved to be a defining moment for Napoleon.
Okay.
He brilliantly utilized artillery, a strategy that would become his signature to drive the British out of the French port.
Wow.
This victory propelled him into the spotlight, catching the attention of Paul Barras, a prominent figure in the French government.
And it was through Barras that Napoleon met Josephine de Beauharnais, right?
Yes.
The widow of a guillotine general, a woman older than Napoleon,
Now,
and someone who captivated his heart.
their whirlwind romance culminated in a swift marriage.
Right.
Interestingly, Barbero reveals that Napoleon, perhaps sensitive about their age gap, falsified their ages on the marriage certificate.
Oh, wow.
This intriguing detail reveals a more human side to this often portrayed larger-than-life figure.
It's a reminder that even historical icons are susceptible to the complexities of human emotions.
Absolutely.
This marriage, facilitated by Barras, seems to mark the beginning of Napoleon's rapid ascent to power.
Indeed. He was appointed commander of the Army of Italy,
Okay.
a seemingly minor position that he transformed into a string of impressive victories,
Wow.
solidifying his reputation as a military prodigy.
Yeah.
This period also gave rise to the little corporal image, depicting Napoleon as a leader who was admired and respected by his troops.
This image of the triumphant, relatable leader, however, contrasts sharply with accounts, like Manzoni's,
Yeah.
of the darker side of Napoleon's Italian campaign.
Right.
The looting of Italian art treasures, including iconic pieces like the Laocoon and the Apollo Belvedere,
Right.
tarnished the liberator narrative.
You raise a crucial point. The looting of Italian art serves as a stark reminder of the disconnect between Napoleon's rhetoric of liberation and the reality of his actions on the ground.
Yes.
It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that his campaigns, while strategically brilliant,
Right.
inflicted significant cultural and emotional damage.
Yes.
How do we reconcile this contradiction as we examine his legacy?
That's a question worth pondering as we delve deeper into Napoleon's story.
Yeah.
It seems his path was one of constant tension between lofty ideals and pragmatic, at times ruthless, actions.
Exactly. This tension is central to understanding Napoleon.
Mm-hmm.
His Italian campaign may have solidified his military genius,
Right.
but it also sowed the seeds of resentment and raised doubts about the true nature of his ambition.
Yeah.
And this ambition wouldn't be confined to the borders of Europe for long.
Right.
His next move takes us to the unexpected landscape of Egypt,
Okay.
marking a fascinatingly ambitious chapter in his story.
Yeah. Interesting.
Huh.
The Egyptian campaign feels like such a bold gamble, a move seemingly disconnected from his European conquests. What was Napoleon hoping to achieve in the sands of Egypt?
Well, the Egyptian expedition was definitely strategically ambitious,
Yeah,
albeit ultimately unsuccessful.
Right.
Napoleon aimed to disrupt British trade routes and establish French dominance in the Mediterranean.
Makes sense.
But this campaign wasn't solely defined by military objectives.
Right.
Barbero highlights a compelling anecdote where Napoleon, demonstrating his calculated yet effective leadership style, embraces plague-stricken soldiers to bolster morale.
Oh, wow. That's pretty crazy. It speaks volumes about his understanding of psychology and the importance of perception, even amidst a military campaign. It also highlights the risks he was willing to take to project an image of strength and fearlessness.
Precisely. The Egyptian campaign, though, a military failure, contributes to the Napoleon legend.
I see.
His return to France in 1799 coincided with a period of political instability.
Okay.
The Directory, the governing body, was weak and deeply unpopular, creating a power vacuum ripe for exploitation.
And this is where his brother Lucien, who had become a powerful political figure, seized the opportunity.
Right.
He orchestrated the coup d'etat of 18 Brumaire,
Right.
a pivotal moment that Barbero describes as the prototype of all coups.
Interesting.
Masterfully blending military force, political maneuvering, and carefully crafted propaganda.
Lucien's orchestration of the coup placed Napoleon directly into this power vacuum.
Right.
The coup led to the establishment of the consulate, with Napoleon as first consul, essentially granting him absolute power. However, his ambition didn't stop there.
Of course not.
In a spectacular display of self-aggrandizement, he crowned himself emperor in 1804 during an elaborate ceremony.
Oh, wow. This coronation with Pope Pius VII, brought to Paris to seemingly legitimize his rule, was a carefully staged spectacle.
Yeah.
Yet, instead of allowing the Pope to crown him, Napoleon took the crown and placed it on his own head. It's a powerful statement, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Crowning himself was a symbolic act of defiance.
Yeah.
A clear message that he bowed to no one, not even the church. This act encapsulates Napoleon's approach to power, audacious, calculated, and ultimately self-serving.
So he was walking a tightrope.
Yeah.
Embracing revolutionary ideals while consolidating power in his own hands, it seems like a contradiction. Yet he managed to make it work, at least for a while.
Indeed.
So what were some of the specific actions he took during his rule?
Well, Napoleon's rule was a complex tapestry of progress and despotism. He implemented the Code Napoleon, a legal framework that promoted equality before the law, abolished feudal privileges, and is still considered a cornerstone of modern legal systems in many countries.
Oh, wow.
This code was a significant step forward.
Yeah.
Yet it existed alongside his suppression of dissent and curtailing of personal liberties.
It sounds like he cherry-picked the aspects of the revolution that suited his purposes while discarding those that threatened his grip on power. It's fascinating how he managed to maintain this balance, promoting meritocracy while reestablishing a new form of nobility based on achievement rather than birth.
Indeed, Napoleon straddled the line between revolutionary change and return to more traditional hierarchies. This balancing act is perhaps most evident in his creation of the Grande Armée, his formidable military machine.
Right.
This force, while undeniably powerful and a testament to his strategic genius, was also a drain on French resources and manpower.
The Grande Armée's success depended on constant warfare, which ultimately led to economic strain and immense human suffering both for the French soldiers and the populations of the conquered territories. His ambition, while initially a driving force behind his successes, arguably became his downfall.
The disastrous invasion of Russia in 1812 serves as a stark example of the limits of Napoleon's ambition.
Yes.
Barbero vividly describes the horrific retreat from Moscow,
Oh, wow.
a testament to the devastating losses suffered by the Grande Armée and the turning point in Napoleon's fortunes.
Right.
The Russian campaign exposed the vulnerabilities of his empire and emboldened his enemies.
The Russian campaign set off a chain reaction. Napoleon was forced to abdicate in 1814 and exiled to the island of Elba.
Uh-huh.
Even in exile, his audacity and cunning remained intact.
Right.
His escape from Elba and subsequent return to France.
Right.
Rallying support for the 100 Days campaign
Yeah.
is a testament to his resilience and his ability to exploit opportunities.
The escape from Elba speaks volumes about Napoleon's character.
Yep.
His ability to transform setbacks into opportunities to rally supporters even after a humiliating defeat is remarkable. This brief return to power, however, was a gamble that ultimately backfired.
His defeat at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815 marked the definitive end of his rule. This time, exile to the remote island of St. Helena awaited him.
Right.
It's in this final exile that, as Barbero shares, Napoleon uttered his poignant last words, "France the army, the head of the army Josephine."
Wow.
Even in his final moments, his thoughts turned to the things that had defined his life, his country, his military achievements, and perhaps unexpectedly the woman he had divorced years earlier to further his political ambitions.
Those final words offer a glimpse into the complex and often contradictory nature of Napoleon's character.
Yeah.
They highlight the enduring power of love and loyalty, even amidst a life consumed by ambition and power. His death in 1821 on that remote island marked the end of an era. But his story continues to fascinate and provoke debate centuries later.
Yeah, those final words referencing Josephine are particularly striking. Considering he had divorced her to marry an Austrian princess, a calculated move to solidify his dynasty and gain acceptance among Europe's ruling elite, makes you wonder if he ever regretted that decision, sacrificing personal happiness for political gain.
The decision to divorce Josephine and marry Marie-Louise of Austria really exemplifies Napoleon's pragmatic, even ruthless approach to power. He viewed the marriage as a strategic alliance, a way to legitimize his rule and integrate his empire into the existing European order.
But it seems like this grand strategy backfired. Instead of fostering peace and stability, the marriage only fueled resentment and suspicion among his rivals. It further solidified the perception of Napoleon as an outsider, an upstart who was disrupting the established balance of power.
You're right. Napoleon, for all his brilliance, may have underestimated the deep-seated resistance to his rule. He failed to fully grasp the rising tide of nationalism that was sweeping across Europe, a force that yearned for distinct national identities rather than a forced unification under his empire.
His story is a cautionary tale about the limits of ambition and the dangers of overreach. Perhaps if he had been less focused on expansion, more willing to compromise, he could have consolidated his gains and built a lasting peace.
Perhaps. But such a path seems at odds with Napoleon's nature. He was, as we've seen, driven by a relentless ambition, a desire to push boundaries and reshape the world according to his vision. This unwavering drive, while a source of his extraordinary achievements, also contributed to his ultimate downfall.
And that brings us to this complex question of Napoleon's legacy.
Right.
Barbero doesn't offer a simple answer, leaving us to grapple with the contradictions of a man who is both a champion of progress and an agent of destruction.
Rightfully so. Napoleon's legacy is this tangled web of advancements and regressions. He disseminated the ideas of the French Revolution, equality before the law, meritocracy, religious tolerance across Europe. His legal reforms, particularly the Code Napoleon, had a lasting impact influencing legal systems around the world.
Yet we can't overlook the devastating wars he waged, the brutal suppression of dissent. The imposition of his will on conquered peoples. He was undeniably a product of his time, a time of revolutionary upheaval and shifting power dynamics. But he also played a significant role in shaping that time.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Napoleon's story reminds us that history rarely follows a linear path towards enlightenment. It's a messy, often contradictory process. Figures like Napoleon can act as both catalysts for change and obstacles to progress.
So what can we learn from this deep dive into Napoleon's life and legacy? What insights can we apply to our own understanding of history and the world around us?
Well, his story encourages critical thinking. It reminds us to scrutinize historical narratives, to delve beyond the surface and consider multiple perspectives before forming judgments. We should question the motivations of those in power,
Uh-huh.
recognizing that even seemingly benevolent actions can have unintended consequences.
Napoleon's rise and fall also serves as a potent reminder of the seductive nature of power
Absolutely.
and the importance of checks and balances. We see how easily ambition, even when initially motivated by noble goals,
Right.
can morph into tyranny if left unchecked.
This raises a crucial question. How do we reconcile the positive aspects of Napoleon's legacy, his contributions to legal reform, and the spread of revolutionary ideas, with the undeniable harm he caused through war and oppression?
Yeah.
Can we acknowledge his achievements while condemning his transgressions?
That's the challenge of engaging with history, honestly.
Yeah.
We must embrace the complexities, recognizing both the triumphs and the tragedies,
Uh-huh.
the light and shadow that define individuals and entire eras. Perhaps by grappling with these contradictions, we gain a deeper understanding not just of the past, but of ourselves.
And as we reflect on Napoleon's story, we're prompted to consider the enduring relevance of his era,
Right.
the struggle for freedom, the allure of power, the tension between individual ambition and collective good. These themes resonate deeply with the challenges we face today.
Napoleon's life in all its complexity and contradiction serves as a mirror reflecting both the potential and the pitfalls of human ambition.
Absolutely.
It compels us to examine our own values, our relationship with power, and our responsibility to shape a more just and equitable world. And on that note, we leave you with this final thought. What aspects of Napoleon's story resonated most with you?
Yeah.
What questions linger in your mind as you continue to explore this fascinating period of history? Keep questioning, keep seeking understanding, and keep diving deep.